video. Today we are going to go ahead and talk about the major problems of the N62 engine. This is a 2008 BMW 550i. Right now I'm in the middle of converting it over to the modernized version of the E60, which is the M550i, which they have in like the F90 models. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the major engine issues, what I've paid to go ahead and make the vehicle run back up to standard from factory. So let's jump right into it. Here's an exhaust sound. I'll go ahead and give you guys a startup real quick. First major issue I got with this car was at around 65,000 miles. This car had valve stem seal issues, and you notice that the moment you press on the gas, it's been sitting down for a while, and you're going to go ahead and have blue smoke just shoot out the back of the pipes, and that is not fun. It's not cool. People will stare at you. So that is the very first thing I got taken care of. As far as pricing goes, BMW quoted me around $8,000 to go ahead and get that, the valve stem seals done. That was ridiculous. I was like, whoa, all right. So I took it to a friend in LA, and he got it done, $2,500. And he did, which is the next most common thing, the valve cover gaskets. So he did the valve cover gaskets, he replaced all the gaskets in there, and then he also did the valve stem seals for $2,500. That, if you don't call that a deal, that's a pretty good deal. And most little shops will do it for around that much too, $2,500 to $3,000. Because the parts and labor, the parts don't even cost that much because they're just gaskets. The labor, it is very labor intensive, so it's a pretty hard job to do. I looked it up online. Supposedly it's like an 18-hour job. It takes a while, you know. Next up was the alternator gasket bracket. That thing just started leaking out of nowhere. So I got the alternator bracket gasket leak around 82,000 miles, and you just start noticing the car suck up oil over time, slowly. It started off slow. I got a message on the iDrive and it said, oh, you need to fill up with oil. You have nothing left. You're very low. And I was like, oh, okay. This was the first time it happened. And I filled it up, took about a month, and then I had to fill it up again. And I was like, whoa, I have an oil leak, but I don't see any oil leaks on the floor. And so I didn't really do anything about it because I thought the car was just eating up oil like crazy. And then it started leaking oil, and I saw the leaks, and I was like, oh, at the time I didn't know anything about the alternator bracket gasket leak. So then I looked it up, and actually I didn't look it up. Actually, I took it to BMW because I got in a car crash, and they did a diagnostics on my car to go ahead and take a look at the rear wheel, and they replaced the control arm and everything, and it's good now. And then they also found that the alternator was oily, and I was like, oh, okay, what the heck? And they said, you have an alternator bracket gasket leak. That's gonna be about like $3,500, $4,000. And I said, what? And you know, I took it to a buddy in LA. I took it to a buddy in Burbank, and he took care of it. And I think I forgot how much I paid for that, honestly. I honestly don't even remember. I believe at the time it was around $2,200 or $2,000, I forgot, or $2,500. I forgot how much I paid for the alternator bracket gasket, because at the same time I had to get a whole transmission rebuild, and that was already like $2,500 or $3,000. So I have a brand new transmission sitting under there right now, and so I had both of them done at the same time. The transmission was rebuilt, and the alternator bracket gasket was replaced and cleaned up and everything. And so together, that was around $5,300 because of the transmission and alternator bracket gasket. But the transmissions on these actually go out on all of the E60s. They're actually pretty bad at around like 80,000. They start shifting weird. The gear starts slipping. It's pretty bad. And from my belief, I believe it is the mechatronic sleeve with the solenoids. So you might want to go ahead and take a look at that. That one's around $600. Replacing the solenoids, I got a quote on it. It was around 800, 6 to 800, somewhere around there, just to have the mechatronic sleeve solenoids done. The transmission isn't really that big of an issue. I mean, you can go on for years with it going like that. It doesn't really bother the car. I mean, because I drove it for a while going like that, and honestly, it didn't do, I know it does internal damage to the transmission. It's not good for it because it short shifts. It feels like you got hit from the back, like someone rammed right into your car and you got rear-ended, but it's not really that. It's the transmission solenoids. And you can look it up on Google. It's pretty crazy. Replace them, your car starts shifting clean. Next up is the coolant transfer pipe that runs right through the center of the engine. Below the intake manifold, you have to pull all of it off in order to get to it. And there's gonna be a leak, and you're gonna see like a bunch of coolant everywhere, and you gotta pull it out. And that pipe is gonna be right in the center. And you have to cut it with a saw. If you have the OEM pipe still, most likely you're gonna have it. You have to pull out, you have to cut it through the center, pull from both sides of the pipe, replace it with the brand new expendable pipe that they have. You can search it up. It's a pretty tough job, but I got it taken care of at the shop that I went to because, you know, I don't have time to actually do this. And then you go ahead and get the expendable pipe, you get your O-rings and everything, replace all the seals on both sides, and you're gonna go ahead and refill it with coolant because you're not gonna have any coolant in the car. You're gonna have to drain it. That costed around $2,300. BMW, supposedly they charge you around $5,000 for that, the coolant pipe. $4,000 to $5,000. I don't know if that's correct. That's what I heard. So the story with this is that around 100,000, I just reached 100,000 miles of this car. This car is what, 13, 14 years old? It's a 2008, pretty old, but it's barely heading to 100,000 miles because it's not really driven a lot, you know? I wake up one morning and I come downstairs and I just see coolant all over the floor. This is actually, I believe that's the stain from the coolant. It was all over the floor and it went right to that drain right there. And I said, what the hell? So I immediately called up the dude and I said, hey man, I have a coolant issue. And I know it's a coolant issue because earlier that week, you start noticing, like about a week or two before this actually happened, I started getting messages on the iDrive saying, hey, you're short on, you're low on coolant. And I said, what? All right, because I've been using the AC a lot, so I thought, hey, I have to go ahead and refill it because the AC is using a lot of coolant. But that doesn't make any sense because coolant doesn't just run out in like a month of just straight using the AC. I've never seen a car do that in my life. And I didn't know anything about the transfer coolant pipe in the N62. I didn't know anything about it until it was brought up to me, you know. Most people don't really know anything about the major issues on their car unless they look it up or until it happens. So, you know, that's what happened to me. And I went ahead, took it in. I said, I need to get this done ASAP. And Broski said, all right, we'll go ahead and take care of it on the spot for you. We'll try to have it done in like 2 days, 3 days. And I said, all right, perfect, you know. Very good guy. So that's it, basically. The valve stem seal, valve cover gasket, alternator bracket gasket leak, transfer coolant pipe. Water pump hasn't gone out. Water pump's been doing pretty good for me, considering the fact that it's pretty old now. Usually I heard that the water pumps go out around 100,000 or so. Hasn't done a thing. It's still running good. I have a brand new transmission now. But yeah, this car is very good. It's not as reliable as you're probably thinking. It's a V8. You want to buy a V8, you're going to get V8 stuff happening, okay? It's not going to be the most cost-effective vehicle that you want. You're going to be spending money on gas, especially the fact that prices on gas are going up. But it is a beautiful car. It has a beautiful sound. I did say I was going to have a couple things wrapped up in forged carbon. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to. The wrap shop, I was going to go ahead and do it. I have to reschedule with them because an emergency happened on my end, so I couldn't take it on the day that I wanted to go. So I'll have to do that in another time. But I did have the new diffuser put on that I was talking about, the F90 style diffuser, and I went ahead and got the PSM spoiler put on. Very lightweight. This one right here, along with the rear window one. Matching set, you can find them online. But it was pretty good. The car looks great, to be honest. It looks beautiful. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.